Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Innovate BC this afternoon. We're really honored that you're joining us. It looks to be like a good conversation. We have 4 guests joining us. So we're excited and honored that you're here. And I heard that it was Groundhog Day. So let's I'm sure some of us are hoping for more winter. And some of us, like myself, like this Isqueo, is hoping for a faster spring. I love me a spring season. So wherever we are on our journey, whatever season we're in our lives, we just want to take a moment, press pause, thank Creator for the goodness that is all around us. Yes, we have those hard days and those hard seasons. But always at the end of the day, there's something to be thankful and grateful for. So we just give a shout out for that sun. I heard in BC that the sun is out and it's beautiful. Here in Amiskwaciy, Waskahigan, the sun is out, but it is a really chilly day here. But that sun rose in the east. So that's Creator meeting us for another day. So we just give thanks. We're thankful for the land, Mother Earth. We're thankful for all our relatives who are in our circle, our family, chosen family. We also think about, I have this neighborhood rabbit. That's my relative. So we're thankful for all the animals, the plants, the sacred waters that really help us to live in a good way. So we give Creator thanks for all. And we're so grateful for this moment, this ability to come together in this virtual circle. I know that it's not ideal, but this is where we're at. And I get to meet you all. So thank you for being here. So I'm going to pass it over very quickly. So we have a team of 4 who are here. So we got the New Relationship Trust team, which is Jesse and Marie. And they're going to do a little quick presentation. And then they're going to introduce another team, which is the BCICEI, and that is a handful, a mouthful. And they're going to introduce the other 2 presenters. So the BC Indigenous Clean Energy Initiative team gives a summary. They're going to give a summary of their program, including eligibility, funding, and project highlights, which is always awesome to hear. There will be a short film presented on one successful project. And I love the stories. I love to hear those good stories. And time will be set aside at the end for any questions or comments. So if you have any questions or comments along the way, put them in that chat box and I will make note of them. We will absolutely come back to them at the end. So I'm going to pass it over to Jesse and Marie, and they're going to get the show started.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking time to join us in this virtual circle today. We are Team New Relationship Trust. We oversee different aspects of that. What I think we could do is just do a quick introduction of ourselves to you so you know who we are and where we come from and our intention in this work today. My name is Jessie Williams, Hatsqual, Jessie Williams, Queen Sna, na Anchatla, Squalt Michel Chameoch, na Anchatla Chmochstin, Hatten Squal, Pizits. Good day, my name is Jessie Williams. I'm a member of the Squamish Nation and I have good feelings joining you here today. I'm joining in from my home on the Capilano Reserve, which is located in North Vancouver. My role with the New Relationship Trust is to support by being the Director of Business Development and Communications, supporting corporate partnership and strategic initiatives in ways that elevate BC First Nations. I'll talk a little bit more about how and what in the different ways we do that, and so Marie, but just to give space for us to introduce ourselves, I'll just go across the line here and ask Marie to introduce herself to you.
Thank you very much, Jessie. My name is Marie Alemo, and I'm the Director of Operations for the New Relationship Trust. And I'm joining you today from Musqueam. My partner is a member of the Musqueam Indian Band. And I've been with the New Relationship Trust for just 4 years last week. And my role, I've done a little bit of everything in the organization, just keeping things running. And I love supporting the First Nations of BC. Thank you. And I'll pass it over to Sarah.
Thanks, Marie. Hi, my name is Sarah Powell. I'm a member of the Tuck River Tlingit First Nation based out of Atlin. I myself am located in Prince George, BC, on the traditional territories of the Clady-Tenay, but I'm calling to you today from the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. I'm in the office here with Selina in North Vancouver. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit about the program that we offer and get to know you all a bit better. Go ahead, Selina.
So I'm Selina and I'm from the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. I'm very happy to be working in my home territory and that our office is on our reserve. It's a great commute for me. Also, I'm really also excited to talk to you about our clean energy program here.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for giving us space just to share who we are and where we come from, as we're all taught to do. I thought what I could do is just give a brief introduction about who the New Relationship Trust is and what it is we do, because the program that Selina and Sarah are going to go into more detail with you about is part of a broader organization. So the New Relationship Trust is an Indigenous, politically neutral, not-for-profit organization established in 2006, and we're dedicated to strengthening First Nations in BC by allocating funding and strategic resources in 5 different key areas: governance capacity, education, language, youth and elders, and economic development, and of course the BCICEI. We are governed by an amazing 7-people board, and we have currently 9 staff as part of our overall team. What we focus on is providing relevant and responsive partnership by centering each community's vision of their own future. We take an active role in adapting our programs and approaches regarding funding to ensure it respects and honors each community's agency and journey to achieve their goals, which is different. We're special. We can evolve and respond to community need and demands in a way that others might not be able to, given external funding guidelines. We are our own funder, and when we do collaborate and partner, we work with the focus and the value of making it be relevant and responsive to community needs. Last year alone, NRT funded 256 First Nations initiatives, totaling 1.2 million in direct support to BC for capacity building initiatives in last year. Funds supported diverse initiatives such as land use planning, GIS mapping, governance terms of reference strategies, financial policies, impact and benefit analysis, and community engagement initiatives, all directed, created, and ran by the communities themselves. We also funded 321 post-secondary students to support in their educational attainment. To date, NRT has supported 98% of the 203 First Nations through funding over the years since our inception. Our goal is to support 100% of all BC First Nations. So there are a number of different ways you can get engaged and benefit and connect with us. One is if you're a First Nations community in BC, you can apply for resources that support nation initiatives. If you are a BC First Nation individual, you can apply for support towards your post-secondary education. And if you are someone who wants to work with an Indigenous organization that's experienced in partnering with First Nations in BC in relevant ways, we are always open to and seeking Indigenous and non-Indigenous partners, whether that be a community, an organization, a corporation, a society, a foundation, or an individual who has expert knowledge. Please know that we are always open to collaborating together. There's a word in my language, nchotmo, and it means to be connected and to be in unity. We really do need each other in this work. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Marie to talk a little bit more about some of the funding programs.
Thank you so much, Jessie, for that great overview of our organization and what we do. And I'm just going to speak to you just about one of our initiatives a bit more in depth. We do have the initiatives that we do have. We fund language grant programs, K-12 education, as Jessie mentioned, post-secondary education. We have an elders grant program and a youth program, but I'm just going to talk a bit more specifically about our nation building program, which provides capacity funding. So with that, it provides up to $50,000 to eligible First Nations and tribal councils to support their nation building activities that's prioritized by them. So any project that strengthens the institutional governance and community capacities are eligible for funding. The projects enable the nations to reclaim and rebuild their resiliency, self-determination, and sovereignty. So the nations, in a nutshell, choose projects that are priorities to them. They tell us what they need. We don't prescribe them to a list of what we think they should be receiving funding for. So for example, a couple of projects that I pulled that we're funding this year. So we're supporting a community to develop a community energy plan so they can identify community energy priorities, availability of clean energy resources, and energy efficiency opportunities. And with another community, we're supporting their preparation of their constitution before their treaty negotiation concludes. Another community we've supported since 2018 with creating their own economic development corporation. And this year, we're supporting their transition to having a separate board of directors from its current political structure. And the last example is we're supporting a community create a climate action strategy. And they're currently establishing their commitments and actions for their community and government that they can take to prepare and respond to climate crisis over the next 30 years. And another program that we fund is a economic development equity matching program. And we partner with the Aboriginal financial institutions in BC to support Indigenous entrepreneurs and First Nation community businesses with equity matching grants that are funded by us, by the NRT. And if you'd like to know a little bit more about our funding programs, if you're from BC, or even if you're from another area in Canada and just wanted to get to know about our organization and how things work, I'm really happy to get on the phone and share everything that we can possibly share with you to learn more about what we do. Thank you.
And quickly before we pass it off, thank you so much, Marie, to Sarah and Selina. One other initiative that we do support, and actually Marie is very, very much the nurture of the program, is the YETS program. It's the Young Entrepreneurs Summit. It's an amazing program. It's national. It's the bomb, just saying. It's amazing. If you want to learn more about that, you can also check out our website. So thank you so much, team. With that, I'll pass it over to Sarah and Selina to talk about what it is that you came to learn more about. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks, Jessie. So we're just going to pull up a presentation here really quick. All right, so as we already introduced ourselves, my name is Sarah Powell, and I'm a co-administrator of the BC Indigenous Clean Energy Initiative.
I'm Selina Beltran, and I'm also an administrator on the program.
So the presentation here today is just going to explain a little bit about what our program is, what's the eligibility and our funding priorities, and just highlight a couple past projects we funded that we really want to show off their success stories and just share the story with everyone else. So next slide.
So the BC Indigenous Clean Energy Initiative, we've been in operation since 2016. We have funded 68 projects from 55 different communities across BC. We're funded through the federal government's strategic partner initiatives and through Pacific Economic Development Canada. And then the province of BC also joined in through Clean BC, and we are administered through the New Relationship Trust. So BCICEI provides support and capacity building funds to Indigenous communities working on the development of clean energy projects.
So a good place to start off is what exactly is clean energy? It's a buzzword we hear a lot nowadays. You see it in the news, you hear it in all the discussions. Oh, we should transfer to renewable resources. We need clean energy. But what exactly is clean energy? Well, people don't actually know. So there's different types of clean energy. The first that most people are very familiar with is solar. So the way solar works is a little bit complicated if you don't have an advanced science degree, but essentially in a nutshell is that a light wave emitted from the sun is absorbed by a photovoltaic cell created with silicone, which causes the electrons of each atom to go into a higher energy state. And then the voltage is generated by the separation of these charges from the prior energy state to the higher energy state. And then we have technology nowadays capable of taking that voltage and turning it into energy. So that is available on a very small scale. They have very small solar panels that can go on residential all the way up to large solar fields that you may see down in Nevada. Now, very popular in BC is hydro, obviously. And BC Hydro produces all of the power for BC, almost all of it commercially. So in that, moving water is used to turn a turbine, which is then connected to a generator, which through the generator uses an electrical field to convert kinetic energy of the water into electrical energy that can power homes. Wind works in much the same way as hydro, except wind power is used to move the turbines to turn the electric generators instead of water. So you'll notice between these two, hydro and wind powers, both include turbines. Turbines are the essence of all power generation and renewable resource energy, as essentially power is generated by getting something to move a turbine, whether that's wind, whether that's hydro, or something else we're going to talk about in the next slide. Clean energy is finding a way to move a turbine and it's using a renewable resource. So turbines are used to convert, turbines are used to convert kinetic energy to magnetic energy. A force is used to spin the turbine blades, so either the water or the wind, which when the turbine blades move, it then moves a magnet inside a coil of wire, and through various processes that are very complicated, this actually produces an electric current that can be harvested and transferred to homes. Now we can move to the next slide. So the last clean energy I'm going to talk about today is geothermal. Now there's different types of geothermal clean energy, but what geothermal is heat from the Earth's interior through geothermal fluid. So essentially there's pockets of fluid that are at very hot temperatures beneath the Earth's crust, which is then converted to steam, which then again moves a turbine. And then it's renewable as the geothermal medium or liquid is pumped back into the Earth to get reheated and then sucked up again. That's why we classify geothermal as a renewable or clean energy source. So there's three different types of geothermal plants. There is a dry steam, and this is for very hot pockets of geothermal fluid. So high pressure and heat from the Earth, very deep underground, allow for pockets of steam to form. A geothermal well taps a steam reservoir, which is used to move a turbine again. So the steam is released from the Earth using tubes all the way up to a plant, which then turns a turbine and energy is created. So flash steam is when superheated liquid is pumped into an area of lower pressure that causes the liquid to rapidly vaporize or flash into steam, which again moves a turbine. So the difference between dry steam and flash steam is the presence of liquid or just pockets of steam in the Earth's crust. Now, a binary cycle is used when there's slightly cooler geothermal fluid that they found. There's varying temperatures. This is still over 100 degrees Celsius, but it's considered a cooler source. So it's cooler geothermal fluid is pumped from the Earth in a heat exchange. So the heat is transferred to a liquid with a lower boiling point, such as water, by simply running the pipes past each other. And generally the water will then, being heated to past 100 degrees, will turn into steam, which will then flash to vapor and move the turbine similar to the dry steam process. Next slide.
All right, so hopefully you're still with us. It's a lot to learn about. So here's some just quick stats. I mentioned earlier that we have 68 projects funded from 55 different communities. We've awarded $11.8 million in funding, and 43 projects are complete. So this is to date. This information does not include our 2021 funded projects. So we have 1.8 million in annual energy bill savings, 11.7 in annual revenue, 2.2 million diesel reduction liters annually. So that's almost the size of an Olympic-sized swimming pool. We're at 418,000 GHG tons saved annually, which is like removing 128,198 cars a year. We've created a total of 1,089 jobs, and we have 102,000 megawatt hours of annual clean energy generated. So that's like powering 3,625 homes energy use for 1 year. And this is just a map of all the projects we have funded up to 2020 though. So this doesn't include 2021. We have a really great projects across BC, and we have funded every single region in BC, and we have very diverse amounts of projects also across the province. So now we're going to get into our intake process.
So the BCICEI has funding priorities that are set by our advisory committee, which we'll get into a little bit later. So in order for a project to be selected for funding, as this is a highly competitive program, the project has to demonstrate readiness and viability through completed feasibility studies, plans, assessments, agreements, and or community partnerships. So this has to be an established project that has community support and is technically viable, which we do review. The project should also either create opportunities for communities to increase self-sufficiency, potentially generate revenue and build capacity with clean energy, or energy efficiency project development, including pilot projects. So we want the projects that we fund to make a positive impact on our communities and make, increase the energy self-sovereignty of Indigenous communities in BC. We are also passionate about supporting clean energy projects in remote, off-grid, diesel-dependent, or end-of-line communities. A lot of First Nations communities in BC are not connected to the main power grid. They are completely reliant on diesel generators for their power and heat. This obviously has a very high GHG cost. So that is a high priority for the initiative, is to fund these clean energy projects in these communities to reduce the GHG reduction and increase energy self-sufficiency, as diesel generators are a little bit unreliable, especially when you have to ship in diesel during the middle of the winter. So here are 4 project categories that BCICEI funds. We currently fund feasibility studies. Now, feasibility studies includes feasibility studies, obviously, and site selection studies, environmental review and permitting, as well as project design and engineering. We also fund demand-side management projects. These are projects such as heat pumps or home energy retrofits. Our third category is clean energy, which is a small scale or non-utility scale installation. Now, these are projects such as residential solar or community building solar that are non-commercial scale operations. And our final category is the commercial operation date, the pre-construction. These are the large revenue generating projects that generally have an energy purchase agreement with another utility company. And these are, these are the massive projects, the mega projects that we fund.
So just about our funding cap. So for feasibility, if you combine any of the subcategories, you can apply for up to 300,000, and all of our funds can be used up to 100% of the total project. So we do recommend 10% in kind, but it's not required. So then demand side management is up to 200,000. And clean energy small scale installation also up to 200,000. And for the pre-construction, pre-commercial operating date, it's important to note that diesel dependent remote communities are also eligible for this category for up to 500,000. It doesn't have to be a revenue generating project. It could be sort of smaller, like the clean energy kind of projects, but they are eligible up to the 500,000, and that's just remote diesel dependent communities. So our program has a very collaborative model that is actually very admired across the country. There are people actually trying to, they're making us our model in other programs. We have an advisory committee. There's a collective group of senior executive representatives from First Nation leaders, provincial government, federal government, and industry leaders. All these people at the advisory committee level make the final decision on which projects will be funded. They take into account many different things, since they're all they come from different places. So like First Nation leaders are like, well, this is more important for First Nation goals right now. And then you have the government, industry, and we also have a working group that is representatives from those exact same other organizations, and then they focus on reviewing project viability. So the purpose of both of these committees is they ensure high quality input and meaningful reconciliation engagement that takes place through all aspects of the First Nation funding process. And so,
we're just going to go over a couple of project highlights of our past success stories that we'd like to show off, and we're very proud of these projects that we helped make a possibility.
Yeah, and so we're going to start with the film. And let me know if you can't hear the audio.
Right now we're at Nimai Valley. We call it Honeygutin. We're highly isolated. You can see to most people that don't know this area, it takes about 3 hours to get here. But isolation plays a huge part in what we want to do, and one of it is power.
We're installing an underground line extending from our microgrid in our central community to 28 homes. And the underground line idea comes from many years of community engagement around clean energy projects and clean energy development of our community not wanting to see power lines or power poles going right through our valley, because we hold the aesthetic value of our community and our territory very high. We have a lot of opportunities for tourism. We have a lot of people that come into our communities and want to utilize our territory for films and for movies and things like that. We also have a lot of ceremonial gathering and traditional spots all the way from the central middle of the community out to here and beyond that an overhead power line would kind of get in the way of and disturb if we went that route.
Most of the people at the West End have their own little generators, and running a generator, a small generator, probably works out to about $2 a kilowatt hour. This is going to, once this is in, people are going to be paying should be paying BC hydro rates out. That's the idea, which for tier 2 I think is somewhere around 8 to 10 cents a kilowatt hour or something.
Life was a challenge also with you're depending on your generator a lot, eh?
In a remote setting, the market isn't always there to provide you with external funding. When it comes to being a First Nations community, we run off of government funding majority of the time, and so being able to have other funding sources out there that really supports us in telling the story that we want to tell, and having people out there who support the visions that we have as well. And so it's good to be able to bring in other people and help share the story who we are.
So that is our, no. All right. So that was our film that we have from Honeygutin. We funded their underground distribution line project.
So another project we want to highlight is the BCICEI First Nation heat pump project. So BCICEI is located in Bella Bella, which is a remote island community in the northern coast of BC. Their goal is to retrofit all of the houses in their community, which is around 400, with air source heat pumps. So heat pumps use electricity and they also filter air. So again, you don't have to use diesel necessarily if you have a renewable energy electricity source, and the filtered air is healthier for the occupants inside the house. So heat pumps are kind of like reverse air conditioners. As a liquid refrigerant, it extracts heat from the air and evaporates it into a gas. And so then coils then release heat as the gas condenses, and it stores insulated water to maintain peak efficiency. So in a nutshell, heat pumps transfer heat from outside, even when it's cold outside, as there's always some heat in the atmosphere. We do not operate at absolute zero. Kind of like how the back of a fridge is warm, even though the insides are cool. Heat pumps move that heat from the outside into the interior of the house and cold air to the outside of the house. Heat pumps are up to 1.5 to 3 times more efficient than traditional electrical heat, as they only move heat instead of converting it from another source. So we funded the heat pump project twice in 2019 and 2020 for a total of $300,000. The benefits of the heat pumps in the BCICEI community is savings from $200 to $500 per household per month. We've also created and trained 3 HISEC members for jobs as a result of these projects. And so far, there have been 33 heat pumps installed in 33 homes using BCICEI funding. So far, this has removed 5.3 tons of carbon dioxide emissions per household, which overall has a almost 50,000 liter diesel reduction. So we are very proud of this project. Another project we want to highlight is the Sukana Wind Project from Soto First Nations. This is one of our larger scale projects. It's a 15 megawatt wind energy farm in Soto Traditional Territory, which is on Treaty 8 lands near Chetwynd, which is in northeastern BC. This project is 85% owned by the Soto First Nations, and they have a 40-year electric purchase agreement. So this will be a revenue generating project. So the annual expected revenue for this project is 5.3 million as they sell the energy generated by the wind to the BC Hydro grid. So this is a large revenue generator for the Soto First Nation community. So far, 13 jobs have been created for Soto members. When this project is completed, the Soto community will be 100% off the grid and entirely energy self-sufficient. So the allocated revenue from this project will support planned housing and other infrastructure improvements in the community. This project over its lifetime of about estimated 40 years will reduce 17,224 tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
And that is the end of our presentation. So thank you for listening. And please contact us if you have any questions or want to chat or want to talk about your community, clean energy, any ideas you have.
Yeah, like we talked about earlier, our funding priorities are defined by our advisory committee, but this allows us to be very flexible with what projects we can consider to fund. So if your community has a clean energy project in BC, we can talk about it, maybe find a way to fund it.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Selina and Sarah and Jesse and Marie. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate, Sarah, when you broke it down about what is clean energy, and you were able to like describe that and paint a picture for someone like myself who doesn't really work in that field. So I really appreciated that. I appreciated just watching that video and being able to see what a community is doing and what potentially could happen and what you support. So you covered a lot of ground in this short time, which leaves us plenty of opportunity for any questions or comments out there. So does anyone have questions? You can unmute yourself. You can also put in the chat box as well, or any comments that you might have for these lovely ladies. I think they're all like thinking of possibilities. Ooh, what could happen? What could be possible in my community? Okay, we got Ken on. We nickname Ken Zen because he brings Zen to our conversations every time. Go ahead, Ken.
On the Bella Bella project, were you able to eliminate the diesel generator totally at Bella Bella?
For which project, sorry?
Bella Bella. The Bella Bella.
So they are currently working with their, still working through the project. They said they have 400 houses. I believe they're about a quarter of the way done, but in about 5 years is when they're anticipated to be done. And yes, they will, their goal is to totally eliminate diesel reduction.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Terry has a question too.
Yep, Terry, go for it.
Okay. Thank you. My question is around the health sec project as well. My question was there a need to upgrade electrical service for the heat pumps?
So that's on a very case-by-case basis. Not every house needs the electrical service updated. Some of them did. But generally heat pumps can be integrated to the existing electrical system of a house and do not require any further upgrades aside from a licensed installer heat pump. They can work off most houses' electrical inputs. Again, there's a couple exceptions, but for the most part, they do not require any additional upgrades.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, we have a couple of questions in the chat box. So the one comes from Dave. Can you tell us more about the project in Tobacco Plains?
Which project are you referring to in Tobacco Plains?
Dave? Do you want to let us know which project you're referring to? Okay, as we wait for Dave, we'll go to the next question, which is from Larissa. Did the applications have a rolling deadline? And if so, she apologizes if this was covered earlier. And then Melissa has a comment in the chat box as well.
So our applications aren't open yet for 2022. The 2021 intake is closed and that funding has been dispersed. So please, I guess, subscribe to our email notification system so that you can find out immediately when it does open. We will be having another intake for BCICEI, hopefully in the summer.
Yeah, they're not rolling. We have defined opening and closing periods. We're just in between intakes at the moment. We can't announce when the next one is, so.
Okay, so then the task would be to sign up. Is it on your website where they would sign up to subscribe to your email list? And then from there, they will be informed once you put the call outs.
Yes, and you can also follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, or on Facebook, as we also announce those on the social media platforms as well.
Awesome. So where would you find your, what's your handle?
New Relationship Trust everywhere.
Perfect.
So search that, you'll find our logo. And yeah, we announce all of our funding application openings on our social media as well.
There you go. Easy peasy. All right, Terry, did I see that you had your hand up? I don't know if you had another question or maybe it was just, sometimes it's better.
Yeah, sorry, I just didn't put it down, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Didn't want to put pressure on you to ask more questions. So Dave did Dave follow up with Tobacco Plains? I don't see that.
The map that was provided, shown on screen, showed a couple of projects in Tobacco Plains. I don't know anything about them besides there was a dot.
Okay, so we funded Tobacco Plains in, what was it? That was a battery project for their solar. They have a solar, what is it? I can't remember exactly which building it is for or anything, but it's solar.
Maybe Selina, you could after this, you could maybe look into that and maybe you could provide it to Dave if you want to know more information. Selina could look into it.
Yeah. Actually, that segues into something we didn't touch on, is we also like to fund battery projects. So solar projects are very popular, as everyone knows. But again, living in BC, this isn't, the tropics. We have limited sun during the winter. So solar isn't always a viable option year round for energy generation. So we also really like to fund solar projects with batteries. So the excess energy that is generated during the summer months when we're getting lots and lots of sunlight every day can be stored to be used during the winter so that communities do not have to go back on diesel generators during the winter months and only have clean energy part of the year. But yeah, that's a good point.
Great. Well, thanks, Dave, for bringing up that question. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Maybe you're thinking of an idea in your community and you're maybe wanting some feedback around that.
So I actually do have the Tobacco Plains project. So I pulled it up. So they built a new community center to increase health administration and recreation services in the community. And the facility is 100% owned by Tobacco Plains. And they have a solar photovoltaic array that was constructed to heat the facility instead of using propane. And the nation will save approximately $4,000 annually. And yeah, we funded the battery for that solar project.
Awesome. Thanks for looking that up, Selina. Appreciate that. You got quick hands there. Awesome. All right. Well, it doesn't seem to be that there's any questions or comments. Oh, here we go. Do you see significant differences in how Indigenous governance affects the designs of the projects you have funded compared to other projects? Great question.
Yeah, absolutely. We see that. I'll pass over to Selina, but I just also want that, again, since we look to the communities to tell us what their priorities are, we do not set priorities for the communities and their energy self-sovereignty. They can tell us what they need. We are able to fund a lot of projects that other funding partners will not consider, such as the underground distribution line that we just saw in the film. A lot of funding organizations will not fund underground distribution lines as they are obviously more expensive than overhead. But the First Nation told us that they want that the underground distribution line was important for the reasons I stated in the film due to their own Indigenous cultural values and location. So we also funded another project for a micro hydro where the planned location of the dam was actually going to impact some salmon spawning habitat and some old growth trees. So they actually moved the entire project to accommodate to be less disruptive to old growth and salmon spawning. As a result, there is a decreased output of microhydro, but still well enough to meet the community's needs. But again, another funder would not fund that as it's not the most optimal, but it is optimal according to the Indigenous traditions. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Selina.
Yeah, underground distribution is definitely one of the things that we started to fund, and it's actually kind of cool because after we released that Honey Gatine video, we had another nation apply the next year and said, we only applied because we saw your film and we want to do the same thing. We want to make sure that we have an underground distribution, not only for their cultural reasons, but because it's actually much safer for the power lines in their community to be underground. So it's, yeah, I would definitely say that Indigenous governments really affects how different and innovative these projects can be.
Yeah, that's a good point, Selina. A lot of issues you run into, especially with end-of-line communities, is that, again, they're often very remote. Gravel roads are the only access, and so power lines often get knocked out during storms, especially during the winter, and it can be days before crews are sent out to fix the power lines, resulting in days with like -30 weather for communities. They're going without power. An underground distribution line solves these problems as they can't be knocked over by falling trees or snowstorms or anything like that that can weigh down the poles. So that's another thing that is not considered, you know, important by other funding organizations, but the First Nations tell us that's important, so we like to fund those projects.
Great. I see Ken, your hand is up, and then we have another question in the chat box.
Yeah, it's Ken again. What kind of payback for the back to Bella on the air exchange, the air heat pumps? What kind of payback is it? Like a 4-year, 5-year, 6-year payback for the for it to pay back for the energy that you put in for the installation cost, or do you have that calculated?
I don't have that exact number calculated on me at the moment, but heat pumps are also much cheaper than generally diesel, especially in Bella Bella, as diesel needs to be shipped into the community. So almost immediately they're going to see a reduction in annual bills. I believe the infographic had up 200 to 500 monthly bill reduction immediately as soon as the heat pump's installed. So it would be very quickly. Heat pumps themselves are a couple thousand per household. So I imagine in about 2 to 3 years, you completely pay off the cost of the heat pump just based on your energy bill savings on a very rough calculation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so Larissa had a question in the chat box. I don't know if you want to come on and ask Larissa, or we can just take it to the chat box. Just because you said you were happy to further explain. But if not,
Sure. Well, I work with Sauk First Nation, and I'm always interested in these circles when we come together that, you know, Sauk was one of the earlier adopters for putting up a big solar array in the province, and they were able to grandfather in when BC Hydro changed the net positive. So that it's still a revenue generator, even though it's not a utility scale. So all their surplus that goes into the grid, they get paid for it. Of course, BC Hydro doesn't want their income to be undermined. So they actually did away with this except for the utility scale stuff. But I think that there's a real reconciliation piece to actually including and continuing this for less than commercial scale. And I'm always interested in a group like this of folks who are working in this sphere, whether there's any appetite for that kind of advocacy, because I think it's really an important piece to consider, because there is a lot of power in these rooms, in these communities, to not overbuild in a huge way, but to overbuild a bit so that you could be actually having that surplus generate revenue for the community, as it does still in Souk. But anyway, I always think there's a real justice question there that gets really missed in some of this. It's unfortunate. And I think that there is like some juice to that conversation that could be generated with this kind of organization and others that are teaming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're aware of the doing away with the net metering program. We hear a lot from the nations we work with that they wish it would come back, and that has actually hampered quite a lot of projects we've heard about. As an apolitical organization, we don't really have any impact directly on lobbying them to change that. But we do see the impact, and we do hear rumors from our communities of them trying to, sending letters to BC Hydro. Yeah, we're aware of it, but we're not exactly involved in trying to change that at this moment. We just don't quite have the capacity. Doesn't totally align with our mandate, but we are very supportive of nations who are trying to get the net metering program back, because yes, we are seeing that it is impacting a lot of projects that have to have been scaled down just due to funding constraints, because again, a lot of funders won't fund a project that is slightly more than the community needs because there is no net metering program anymore. So yeah, we have seen the impacts on that.
I don't think it's political, just in
I don't either, but yeah,
placeholder for like advocacy. But yeah, energy shouldn't be political. Like I worked in Alberta for a long time, and it's like anything to do with hydrocarbons is a given, and anything green energy is energy. It shouldn't be political, right?
Yeah, so, no, I totally agree with you on that, but we do have our limits. So
sure, yeah, just putting it out there, because I think that would be a really interesting thing. That anyway. I won't monopolize the conversation, but thanks, guys.
Yeah, no, we are supportive of other First Nations who, are lobbying BC Hydro to get that program back. We are very supportive of that.
Oh, thank you so much, Larissa. We have a question in the chat box from Jake. Where are the contractors from that do the projects? Are they close to the communities? Pardon me. So that's the first question. Second one is, after the life expectancies of the components for off-grid living due to weathering, are they recycled? And number 3, are they remanufactured? So for example, I cannot talk, copper for the turbines. So 3 questions there.
So the contractors, it depends on the nation. So if they have local contractors, they'll usually, go with their local contractors. If they don't, they'll probably reach out. We don't have anything to do with selecting contractors. So we essentially fund the nation, and the nation uses that money to further their project in any way. For the other questions, I'll pass it to Sarah.
So most of the projects that we fund, we often include an operations and maintenance part of that project, so that the life expectancies of the components can last for a long time. Generally, due to the large timelines of the programs, we're looking at 40 to 50 year life cycles. We don't really talk about plans for once the expectancies have been compromised beyond repair. Yeah, so we don't actually have any documentation from communities regarding recycling plans on that, but based on previous projects that are currently being remodeled, I would imagine they would remanufacture as much material that can be salvaged from the old projects into the newer, more energy efficient one. But yeah, that's something we don't often talk about, just because it's a 40-year timeline generally.
Yeah, we've only been in operation from 2016.
Yeah, so we haven't quite got to that yet, but that's actually an interesting question. I would imagine that there would be lots of efforts to recycle the current projects once they reach the end of their life cycle.
Great questions from Jake, as usual. Thanks, Jake. Larissa, is your procurement contracts? Oh, in your procurement contracts, it's a great idea to have clauses for contractors, installers about training members.
Yeah, so that's something we offer in our application. In our procurement contracts, again, we try to not be too paternalistic, and we allow nations full control over who they hire and for whatever reasons that they themselves choose. However, in the applications, we do rank higher communities that are applying that offer internal training opportunities and jobs based on the project they're applying for funding for. So those do get ranked higher in our scoring process just by community benefits.
Great. I mean, great questions, everyone.
Yeah.
Just getting the conversation rolling here. I think we have a couple more minutes. If there are any questions and comments, this is your time. So the floor is open. And just a reminder, for those who may have come in a little bit later, that this has been recorded right from the start, so you can always catch this on the replay.
And you can email us, get a hold of us, and we're happy to answer these questions anytime. If you have specific questions, we have access to more notes than what we have right now, so we can get into the specifics if you have some really deep questions you want to chat about.
Great.
Also, sorry, when we do have our intake, we also really encourage everybody to get in contact with us before the deadline so that we can talk about your application, help you out in any way you can, answer questions. Please just reach out to us before the deadline so that we can work on your application with you.
Yeah, as we're not the ones who make the final decision. We're just the administrators of the funding. It's our collaborative advisory committee that makes the decision. So we can help you definitely with your application based on our own previous experience.
Great offer. All right. So is there a email address that somebody could write to?
Yeah, I think Marie's populating it in the chat right now.
Perfect. Awesome.
Thank you, Marie.
And then there's the website as well that you can look at.
Our contact information is on the website as well.
So you all are connected now.
Yes.
So I hope you, make those contacts if this speaks to you, if you have those deeper questions, or say I like to percolate. So sometimes things just need to sit and simmer and then later on have the questions. So really take note of the contact information that was given today. I think this is amazing.
Even if your community, you're not involved in a clean energy project, but you just want to chat about it. Like we love talking about clean energy. We annoy our families all the time. So feel free to reach out and just chat with us. We love talking about it.
Woohoo, which is why you're working in the industry or in that.
That's right. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. Well, I think that this was a great presentation. Thank you all 4 of you for being here and spending time with us this afternoon. So you are from the New Relations Trust. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining and to be part of this dialogue, this conversation. We hope you have a good rest of the day and hope to see you again. And so as we carry on the day, may we just walk in a way that just honors Creator, honors the world that's among us. We certainly could use more kindness and compassion. So love on your neighbors. Take care, everybody, and be well. Thank you so much for having us.